Alright, welcome back to Just Another Melt on Just Another Melting channel. This is part 2 of a 3-part melt series in which I melt down 4 big tubs or bins of crushed cans. Now you'll notice the cinder blocks. The appearance of these cinder blocks is new. I went and bought these. The purpose of the cinder blocks was to try to give me a little bit of an elevated platform on which to pour, set my crucible, things like that. I should probably be using fire break at least for the crucible part, but I don't have any just yet. But what the bricks or the cinder blocks are basically supposed to do is allow me to dip the crucible below the ingot molds and then tilt the crucible up into the ingot molds for the pour. That's supposed to give me more control, at least the way I'm understanding it from swdweeb's videos, the gentleman I mentioned in 10A, part 1 of this video series. And during this melt, as I developed the rhythm for it and started being able to actually do better on the pour, I realized what I was doing wrong. You'll see it and I'll explain it as it goes on so that if you're trying this as well, you can learn from my mistakes. Alright, so here you can see it. I've got the crucible down below the flat surface that the ingot trays are sitting on, and then I'm able to tilt it and actually pour out. The problem with this pour, and a few after it, is that the way the ingot trays are set up, these molds, I still have to lift the crucible higher and higher and get further away from the ingot mold to pour on the back pieces, which I did rectify later, but that was an issue. And you know, there's also other things that come with having the trays, the ingot molds set up like that. Visibility, the stability of holding it, especially with a fireplace tongs as opposed to an actual shank or crucible pouring tongs, which will be addressed later. But yeah, that's the whole point of getting these bricks. Give me that elevation, make it a little easier. Alright, so I'm pretty much done with the first tub, the first bin full of crushed cans. Got my new lid, my new temporary lid, and we're bringing in the second tub now. And so once again, as we move into this pour, just hopefully to kind of reiterate what I was saying, the way that the ingot molds are set up is not ideal, just because of the fact that as I get further down the line of the tray, I have to keep the crucible lifted up further away from the pour, which increases the risk for losing control of it. It also blocked my visibility a couple times, so you're gonna see it later on in the video here very shortly, how I was able to finally figure out what to do to get around that problem. Now, one thing I'm going to talk to you about right now, if you decide to melt in your backyard, build your own foundry furnace, etc., be very wary of sitting down the way I am and trying to plunge cans. Honestly, I'm always so sore after a melt. My back hurts, my legs hurt, and it's because I'm sitting down for an extended period of time. I'm bent over, I'm trying to plunge cans in there. You'd be better off just making your own lid the way I did, with a hole large enough to shove crushed cans through and then plunging through there. That does 2 things. 1, you're not going to end up as sore and all messed up as I was. 2, you're going to be able to keep the heat inside of your furnace up and lose less of your crushed aluminum cans that you're plunging to oxidation. And just as a note, again, I'm not going to be quenching any pour except for the last one, just because my understanding is that changes the metal. I'm still reading into that and looking it up, but I will only quench the last pour. I'm letting everything else cool down naturally. So one thing I did try new on this melt was fluxing. I had seen several videos on YouTube, including Paul's Garage, swdweeb, and several other people who said if you use Morton light salt as a flux, it can cause the aluminum in the crucible to be runnier and less likely to stick to any of the dross or slag, whatever it is, that you skim off the top. So I was trying that. Personally, I feel like it worked really well, because a lot of the dross that I ended up pulling out was just this really black, ashy stuff without a lot of aluminum attached to it. So that worked pretty well for me. I'm gonna have to look into it further and see if, you know, just how viable of a flux that is when it comes to fluxing with crushed cans, because that's gonna be the majority of where I get my metal to melt. And I say that with a little bit of attitude because I joined a couple groups on Facebook hoping to be able to ask questions and learn from other people who have so much more experience with melting and casting than I do. And the minute they find out, oh, you're a can melter, man, it's like a switch just flips and they're like, oh yes, you are a piece of garbage, Mr. Potter. Go burn in hell with your crushed cans. I'll sit here with my aluminium. Like, bugger off, man. You're not any better than me just because you have more resources. Everybody starts somewhere, all right? It's like getting mad at a baby. How dare you not be running marathons, you crawling, diaper-filling turd. Kind of irritates me, that's all. You used to be able to talk to people on the internet. I just sound like an old guy. So, let's talk about the pour you just saw. The way that the ingot trays are set up now allows me to keep the crucible at a nice low level below the top flat surface part of the ingot mold and keep a good, even, slow, steady pour. And you're going to see that when I do the last pour, which is coming up right here. But it worked really well, and I'm glad I finally was able to kind of figure that out. The ambient heat coming off of this is redonk.
No, I can feel it. It's so good.
I'm talking to my viewers, all two of them.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I cannot believe that I did it. All right, so we got the crucible down below the flat edge. We have it really close to an edge, and we're able to just very nice and slow tip it over and start getting the molten aluminum to pour into the ingot molds. This is the best way that I have found and experienced to pour, and it's because, I was watching videos from swdweeb and he was talking about this. If I can find that video, I'll link it in the description so you can hear him talk about it. But this was great. This is how I'm going to be doing it from now on, so I'm super glad I got those cinder blocks.
Nice.
That came out easy.
Yeah, they did.
That's what she said. Come on, that was funny.
I'm trying to film. Being professional.
Can't laugh at that's what she said, joking.
Shut up.
So, try to get your ingot mold, whatever you're using, on an elevated surface so that way you can keep the crucible closer to it by utilizing the edge of an elevated surface to pour. And that way you don't have to have your crucible further away than maybe an inch or half an inch. That's the biggest thing I learned on this melt, and the biggest thing that I've learned over the last couple weeks. Thanks for watching. I hope you were entertained, or I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a melter who just happened to stumble upon this and you want to leave me some tips, tricks, you know, I would love to learn anything I can from you guys. And I'll see you on the final video.